And hello, everyone. I'm assuming we're live. I don't see any indication of that, but let's hope for the best. So Daniel says we are now live. So great. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to this very first European Brown Bag unconference that I'm hosting. My name is Igal Tabachnik. I work at Particular Software. Some of you might know me on Twitter, possibly most of you who are here. But if you're watching later, then hi everyone again. In this screencast, I'm going to show you a very cool tool that was recently released that's called CodeCop. And we will see some really nice and really cool things that you can do with it to kind of intercept methods in the .NET applications. And we can show you how you can basically just take control over the .NET method execution and just bend it to your will, do whatever you want with it. So this is very informal. We also have the author of this library, Mr. Ricardo Barbosa here, answering your questions if you have any. So just feel free to write them and in the chat or in the questions box, and we will try answering them as we go along. So most of this is going to be code. I'm going to show you a couple of demos. And feel free to kind of ask questions in the chat. If I miss anything, I'll try answer it on the blog later. So with this, let's simply just dive into the code and let's see what this library can do. So I'm now going to switch to Visual Studio. And I hope you can see this. So what we have here is a very simple, extremely simple console application that what it does, it has a bunch of URLs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just download these URLs using the web client class in .NET, using download string, which is a blocking synchronous method. And then I'm going to do something nasty. I'm going to extract the title of the page that I've downloaded using regular expressions, which we, of course, know we should do with HTML. And then I'm simply going to show them up on the screen. So if we run this, let me Control F5. And run this and see what happens. So we see we have Google, we have Microsoft, we have CNN, /. So basically, right now, we can see that I'm downloading some content from the internet. Reddit took its sweet time, Wikipedia, and showing you the results. So very, very simple, very straightforward. Now, things can get interesting. So let's suppose that somewhere here, I want to intercept this download string method and make it do some interesting things. So regularly in .NET, I would not be able to do this because this class is not virtual. Those methods are not virtual. I cannot really extend inherit from web client and expand it to what I need. So what can I do? Well, luckily, with this new library called CodeCop, I can basically take control over any method in .NET, be that any class or any instance or any static method, even in the MS core lib. And in order to do this, I'm going to need to add a NuGet package that's called CodeCop. You can find it on NuGet right now. I'm using a pre-release version 2, which I'm going to demonstrate at the very end to show you kind of what's new in that. So I'm going to simply install CodeCop from NuGet into my project. It will take a few seconds. And once it's done installing, I can basically start. So let's say I want to take control over the download string method of web client and have it write something to the output every time it's going to be executed. So what I need to do is I need to do several things. First of all, I need to get the actual download string method with reflection so that I can have access to its method info. In order to do that, I can simply go and do type of web client. Then I can do get methods. And then with a simple link query, I can select first or default method info, where info.name equals download download string. Okay, and then what I need to do is I need to assign it into a variable. Let's call it mi. Okay, and now that I have this method info, I'm ready to intercept it. So I need to do first several things. CodeCop works by using JSON configuration. So you basically can configure all the interception using an external JSON file, but it also supports Fluent API, which was added to the application, to the library. So in order to support Fluent API, all I need to do is first of all, I need to configure cop to use the Fluent API. So I can type in cop.asFluent. This configures CodeCop to use the Fluent API in order to do the interception. Once I've done that, I can now take my method info, which is a basic reflection type, and now I can have 3 methods on it which weren't there before. One of them is called decorate before, the other one is called decorate after, and the third one is called execute. I have additional ones that says on error. This will happen in case there's an error happening in the method, but we will not look at it today. Okay, so what I can do is I can say method info, decorate before, and this takes in some sort of interception context. We will look at the subject a little bit later. And what I can do is I can basically just write to the console, hello from download string. Finally, what I need to do is I need to tell CodeCop to actually intercept this method. I do this by calling cop.intercept. And basically that's it. With about 3 lines of code, I've now intercepted the execution of download string, and when we run this application, here's what's going to happen. Hopefully the demo gods are happy with me, and everything will be fine. It takes a few seconds the first time that it runs. Let's hope that it works. And now you can see on the screen that hello from download string is called shortly before the actual download occurs. So now we've seen how we can take basically any method by reflection from any class and add some behavior to it. So in this case, the behavior is happening on before method execution. But let's do something more useful with it. So we have the context object, and the context object, if we look at it, it has some very convenient arguments for us to use. So we can have the exception, if any exception occurred. We can have any generic methods, if this is a generic method info. We can have the actual method info that was intercepted. It's very convenient if you want to invoke it again. And we also have a list of parameters that was passed to this method, which is nice, which is something that we can use. If we look at the download string signature, we can see that it takes the URL as a string, as a first parameter. So let's take this parameter. So let's take from the list of parameters in the context object, let's take just the first argument, put it into a field, put it into a variable. And now what I can do is I can say console write line. I'm going to use some C#6 features, and I can now say about to download from, and then I can pass in parameter dot value. The value holds the actual value of the parameter. And now if I run this application again, what you can see is it says about to download from, and it shows the actual URL it's downloading from. This is very awesome because you can see just from these 3 lines of code how CodeCop allows you to do a very basic instrumentation of your code. You can just basically take over any method and you can add some code before and after and instead of, which is something that we'll see in a second. And you can just do add a bunch of information that you want. For example, let's see and measure how long does it take to run these particular methods. So let's do a small change. First of all, in order to measure something, I'm going to need a stopwatch. So let's define a stopwatch object outside of the method so that I can use it. And now instead of using a parameter, let me initialize in the decorate before. Let's start a new stopwatch. Now what I need to do is I need to say decorate after. So in the after execution of the method, I need to stop the stopwatch. And also here I have the context object, which is nice. So now I can just call sw.stop. And what I want to do is I want to write to the output how long the downloading of the page took. So I can write downloading took, and this is the fun part because I never remember what the stopwatch parameters should be. I think it's elapsed total, it's called total seconds, like this. Now if I run the code again, I can see that I've added some information and it shows me exactly how long did it take to download each particular page. So you can see it took about 1.1 seconds to download Google, 1.06 to download Microsoft, 11 seconds to download Reddit, a very efficient site written in Lisp, and so on and so forth. So by now, I hope you see the value of just by adding some information before and after any method executes, you can use it to add impromptu instrumentation and just get some values that you need from the method as it's executing. But let's do something even more. Let's do something even more fun. Let's take over the actual method execution. So let me delete the before and after, and let's override the actual behavior of the method. So what I can do is I can type in method info.override, and here also I have the context object. And here I can actually use it to simulate the actual method execution. I can just do just about anything. So let's say when we are trying to access Reddit, we're going to block it by some firewall and we're going to throw an exception. So I can do this with the simple if context.parameters. And actually parameters is a list, so I can go with the index. So if parameters of 0 value, and I have to cast it to a string because it's an object. So if the value is http reddit.com, then what I want to do is I want to possibly throw a new web exception that says Reddit is blocked by the IT department. Okay, and otherwise I just want to execute the original method. So in order to do this, I need to call context.intercepted method, which is our original method, and I need to call the execute extension on it, and I need to pass it the context.sender, which is the object on which this method was called, and also I need to pass it back the parameters. Context.parameters, and I need to select the value of the parameters, and I finally need to cast it to array. Now I've expressed my that this way of calling the original method might be a bit chatty, so the author promised to add a nice overload that can do this more easily in the future. So you'll be able to just call the method. So let's look again at what we've done. During the method execution, during the execution of download string inside the web client, I'm going to look if the URL is equals to Reddit, then I'm going to throw an exception. Otherwise, I'm going to just execute the method. So let's see. Let's run this. And now I see Google, Microsoft, and then I have an unhandled exception of type web exception, and my program crashed. So it just shows you how you can just basically take the body of any method, and again, it doesn't matter if it's your code, if it's third-party libraries, whether you have source code for it or not, anything you can access with reflection, so public methods, static methods, internals and privates, anything you can get your hands on with reflection, you can more or less take over and then simply override. This led me to an idea. So what if I wanted to take something like a utility method, like path? So for instance, there's very few convenient methods inside the path class. For instance, get temporary file name. So get temporary file name, it creates a 0-byte file on the disk with a temporary file name and returns that file name to you. Now, suppose you're writing a test for this and you have a call to path get temp file name somewhere. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just simply use this to return any value that you want? So yeah, that's definitely sounds like something we could do. And here's what we should do with it. So let's take a type of path and let's call a get method. And since get temp file name is just one overload, I don't need to, I can just use get method, but I also need to specify that this is a static and this is a public method. And now I need to assign it to a method info. Okay, and now let's override. Let's say method info that override, and let's have it return just something that definitely does not exist. So let's say x I do not exist dot xyz. So this is a file name that definitely does not exist. So now, instead of calling the download URL, let me just output to the right line, to the console right line, the value of path.get directory, get temp file name. Let's run this, see what happens. And as you can see, I get the value of I do not exist, which is, again, here I took the execution of the method which is inside mscorelib, and I overridden its value with 3 lines of code. So this is very useful to do in general. And then I thought this could be very useful in mocking as well. So generally, we have a mocking framework. Now, whether or not you're a fan of mocking static methods or not, you have to admit the ability to mock anything, any type of object, which doesn't have to be an interface or a virtual object, is kind of nice. So to make a long story short, because we're running out of time, what I did is I created something I called Project Sledgehammer. It's currently a working title. Now, Sledgehammer uses CodeCop in order to intercept essentially the mocking framework that's called fake it easy, and add to it the ability to mock static methods. So if I comment out this line, you can see I'm using ncrunch, which, if you're not familiar, it's a automatic test runner, continuous test runner. I'm sorry. And what ncrunch does, it will run all those tests. Now, if you are familiar with any mocking framework, which is not any of the paid ones, you will know that. Let me see something. Let me try and run this again. You will know that if you will attempt to if you will attempt to intercept a static method with fake it easy, you will get an error that says from fake it easy. That will say the current proxy generator cannot intercept the method because static methods cannot be intercepted. So I see in the chat that you've already seen the fun in calling this thing a sledgehammer, because it is what it does. Use with caution, because you should know what you are doing. But what I've did was basically, with single line of code, I can now basically teach fake it easy, and this is a regular version of fake it easy from NuGet. So this is not a fork. This is just a fake it easy where I intercept some of its internal methods with CodeCop, and then having it return values that I specify. And of course, the demo gods are failing me, because it should have been immediate change. But let me try and restart this again. And now, let's see. Now let's hope that still works. Well, you have to trust me that it worked before. Well, maybe instead of using ncrunch, let me try and run it with ReSharper's test runner. Okay, and I think the problem is I know the problem is I'm using different versions of I'm using different versions of CodeCop on those two projects. This one uses the one from NuGet, and I'm using a pre-release version, and there are probably some issues there still. So as you can see, there are some things that this library will have to adjust in the future, but basically. Take my word for it that it worked. If you scroll over in the recording, you will see that the first time I opened this, everything was green. So just take my word for it that it worked. So I'm going to switch over back to my original demo, because I do want to show you one last thing, which is something that I think is really cool. So you see how CodeCop could be used to basically take control of any method inside your own application. So of course you do this. There's the very first question here is what's stopping me from using CodeCop to override important things like authentication and security? The answer is absolutely nothing. CodeCop is just another tool that lets you shoot yourself in the foot if you really want to. Much like other tools that are quite capable of doing that, tools that even are way more intrusive, such as things that rewrite your assemblies on the fly or modify your execution in any way. So CodeCop is a runtime only tool, so it can be toggled on and off. And I mentioned previously it has some sort of JSON configuration which you can use, and you can disable just all the interceptions in a single line. So the answer is sure, you can just do just about anything. So you are given a hand cannon, so you use it with care. And if you need to bypass security or authentication for any reason, then yeah, you can definitely do this with CodeCop. One last thing I want to show you, and this is something that's coming in the version 2 release of the library, and this is the ability to basically do the same thing, but to other processes that are already running. What do I mean by that? Here's a hello world application. All it does, it spins a loop and just prints hello world and then sleeps for 2 seconds. It runs forever. What I want to do is when it's running, I want to be able to inject into it and change the behavior of say hello. And with CodeCop 2, I'm able to do that. For this, I'm going to need to create another DLL. This is the DLL which I'm going to be injecting into the running process. And you can see that it basically it does almost the same thing. It needs to take the currently running assembly. It needs to find the type that says program. It needs to find the say hello method, which is non-public and static, so it will be intercepting a private method. And then finally, it will override its behavior to say something else. Finally, we need to call intercept within the process, and it currently has to be done by using a thread pull thread. The last thing is that we need something to execute our injection. So again, with 2 lines, what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch this Hello World app together with this injector app, and this is what will happen. So here I have the Hello World app that's running, and you can see it's working. It's writing hello world to the output. Now with just 2 lines, I'm going to inject into it our new code and execute it. So let me just press F5, and you should see the transformation happening live. So it still says hello world, and hopefully the demo god's not failing me again, but probably they do, because this should have been changed to something else. Let me try it one last time to rebuild everything and make sure that everything works. So let me try press F5. The console application is running, and then I'm going to inject into it, and hopefully nothing happens. I think it might have been caused because of the mixture between the 2 versions. Let me quickly try and do some cleanup. Don't look, but CodeCop writes some stuff into the temp. Let me try and delete that. And then I'm going to, let me try and execute my the first CodeCop demo again, just to make sure that it still works. It will take a few seconds because right now I'm almost running it as if it was the first time. Okay, it seems to be working. Let me try one last time the demo and hopefully it will work. So I'm going to set a multiple startup projects and then I'm going to press F5 and then here's what's happening. The Hello World console application is running. And now if I inject into it, all right, there it is. And now you can see that my running process was suddenly changed and you can see a new message. So think about the potentials for this. Other than, for being extremely cool technology, you can do this to do live production debugging without trying to stop, without stopping your processes. If you do this correctly, then you can more or less safely instrument existing processes. Think of it like attaching it to a debugger, but executing your own custom code. And with this, you can do just about anything. But if you need to take, some measurements or just run about any custom code instead of what you're currently running in production, you can use this. Again, this is this is something that's a hand cannon. This is more like a rocket launcher. You can definitely do some damage with this. So be aware of what you're doing. But here's a new tool that makes these things absolutely incredibly easy. Without, if you have any knowledge of how to do this with other tools, you are most probably aware that they require things like unmanaged code and attaching with profilers and doing things deep in the CLR, which you don't really want to do. Luckily, CodeCop wraps these things very nicely. Ricardo did an excellent job in making this API very stable, very fast. And it still has some limitations which are being worked on. For instance, this currently does not still work with RyoJIT, the new JIT engine for 64-bit processes in .NET 4.6. So if you have RyoJIT, so if you have .NET 4.6, if you have Visual Studio 2015 installed, this only works with the legacy JIT. So you need to turn it on in the application settings. In addition, in my first demo, if you want, it doesn't work with, currently it doesn't work with assemblies that have NGen images generated for them. And if you know, in .NET, the MS Core Lib has pre-generated NGen image. So in order to disable, in order for me to do this demo, where I can intercept path.getTemp file name, which is a class that lives inside MS Core Lib, I needed to tell the runtime to disable loading any NGen images. You can do this by adding a configuration file to the runtime and to say zap disable. I will post a link later on the blog to the GitHub repositories, to the GitHub repository of the core CLR team, where they share some of these tricks of how you can disable JITs, RyoJIT, and how you can disable NGen images and other cool and nasty stuff. So that's about 30 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this. I see that there are still a couple of questions. I hope if they haven't been answered yet, I hope I will be able to answer them later in the blog post that will follow this recording. And for now, I just want to thank you all again for attending and staying. I hope you've seen some serious shit, as Doc Brown said in Back to the Future. And hope to see you in the next future screencasts. And for now, goodbye. Oh, I see that. Yeah, sorry. I see that I still have about 15 minutes for actual questions and answers. So. Yeah, see, this is what happens when you do things without preparations. And we're doing things live. So some of these things I want actually Ricardo, the author of CodeCop, to answer because they're pertaining to CodeCop. I will mention something that I should probably mention. CodeCop is a commercial library. Its free version is allowing you to decorate, to intercept up to 25 methods. After that, you're going to need a license. There are also kind of several cool things that you can do, which are not, which we'll not cover today, which are intercepting. Basically, if you intercept an interface, then all the classes implementing this interface will automatically have this interception enabled on them. This is called a pipelined interception. And so also this library is still very young. It's evolving. If you have any ideas or any needs, feel free to reach out to the author, Ricardo Barbosa. He's a great. He takes care of responding and also provides great support for the product. So this is something. If these things are interesting to you, you should definitely take a look at them. And I will cut this short for today because I want to answer those questions in more detail with the help of Ricardo. And then we will post a blog post following this this recording with the answers in line. So again, thank you all very much for attending, and we'll see you in the future screencasts. All right. I guess that's it for me. Daniel, take it away.